Hello my friends, this is Lady Jana. Welcome back to my channel. Over 3 years ago, I purchased a loom kit project that included a loom and some yarn, but I never got to start it. I was recently going through my craft supplies and I found this kit. This project that I'm going to show you is beginner friendly. Anyone can do this. This project was purchased from Dollarama, a Canadian dollar store. I believe at that time I paid approximately $4. I tried looking for some more kits like this at Dollarama, but I couldn't find any. But let's get started. We are going to start by talking about this kit. So this kit is from Fashion Angels. It's darn yarn. That's how they call it. It was purchased at Dollarama. So it makes an infinity scarf. The kit comes with, of course, these instructions, a 24 peg loom, a hook, a needle, 3 different color yarns. Extra supplies you'll be needing is a pair of scissors, paper and pen. Also be using small hair ties. These will be used as stitch markers, and I'll show you later on in the video why this is so important. This is all the supplies that I'm going to be using, so let's get started. This will not be your first row, but it is called a casting row. So place a marker around a peg. This will mark your first peg. Take your working yarn and make a knot or a slip knot and place this to the outer peg. This will be used as an anchor. Taking your working yarn, we are going to create a stitch called E-wrap. How this works is that you're going to go to the back of your first peg. You're going to wrap it around. And then you're going to go to the back of the second peg. You're going to wrap your yarn around the second peg. Go to the back of the third peg. And going to wrap around fourth peg, wrap around fifth peg, and so forth until you've done all the pegs. Once you've done your last peg, bring your working yarn in front and hold it. The next step is to push down all the loops that are on the peg. So you're going to use your working yarn. You're going to wrap the first peg starting from the back, the second peg, the third peg. So continue on wrapping the pegs until you get to the last peg. And we've reached our last peg. Now you have 2 loops on each peg. Starting from the last peg, you will cast over the bottom loop over to the top loop and the peg. The reason why we start at the last peg is to lock the yarn in place so it doesn't get undone. Last peg, bottom loop, go over. Starting from the bottom loop, you're going to cast over the top loop and the peg. Bottom loop, top loop and peg, and you do this all the way around. And we're done. This is your casting row. Knitting rows. How do we do the knitting rows? First thing, like we've done before, we're going to push down the loops we have on our pegs. To start the knitting, we're going to do the same thing as we've done before. We'll take our working yarn and we're going to wrap around the first peg, the one that we've marked. Wrap it around once from the back to the front. Then we go to the second peg from the back to the front, the third, and we just continue. So we have reached our last peg. We're going to secure the working yarn, stitching the last peg. And while I do this, I like to push down my loop at the same time. Bottom loop, over top, push down. Bottom loop, over, push, bottom, over, push, bottom, over, push down, bottom, over, push down, and do that all the way around. And we're done. So we have completed our first row. What I like to do to make sure that I remember which row I'm at, I take my piece of paper and my pen and I just mark it 1. Then I start my next row. When I'm done with my second row, I'll do another tick. Second row done. This is how I remember how many rows I've done. So again, so let's start our second row. Same thing. Take our working yarn. We're going to wrap it around the first peg. Then you're going to wrap it around the second, the third, the fourth. And this is how you continue stitching. You do this until you get 8 rows. Once you get the 8th row, you're going to be changing color. It's time to change the color. My 8 rows are completed. This is how it looks like in the inside. And if I want to show you the outside, this is how it looks like. Looks great. So to do this, we're going to take our working yarn. We're going to cut our working yarn 2 inches from the loom. We take our next yarn. Now to know which color yarn to use, in our guide, it shows us, we do gray, pink, gray, pink, gray, pink. So our next color is pink. We are going to double knot like this. We're going to cut off the excess. We are continuing with the same E-wrap stitch. Wrap the working yarn around the first peg, then wrap second peg, and so forth. Secure the last stitch, and then cast over. And repeat this until you get your 8 rows. Once you get all of the colors made according to the pattern, then we are going to cast off. The knitting pattern completed, we need to cast off. You're going to wrap your yarn around the loom 1.5 times, and then you're going to cut off the yarn. You thread the needle, bring the needle through each loop. Then you remove all the loops from each peg. Now this is what it gives you. So you just pull a little bit, not too much. You don't want to close it. What you want to do next is to sew these together like this. But since this is rounded, how you fix it is you pull a little bit and it will remove a little bit of the roundness. Okay, so one on top of the other. And you're going to stitch. According to the pattern, you need to place this on top of this piece and then stitch them together. But I don't like this. I did not do this. What I did is I stitched this piece together. I just closed the piece and I closed this piece as well. But I'm not going to stitch them together. I'm just going to leave them. Now this is beginner friendly. I really enjoyed making this. I think I'm going to do some more practice. Also, what I did not like is the yarn. The yarn is not thick enough for this project. I would have liked to seen a thicker yarn, so I think I'm going to redo it with a thicker yarn. and I'm going to do the ends a little bit differently than from the pattern that I've seen. However, for a beginner project, this is perfect. Even the way that the change of color is done in this pattern, I really did not like it because you can see where the knots are. There is a way that you do not see the knots. You don't even have to make a knot. But this is for a little bit more advanced. But for a totally beginner project, this is absolutely superb. I hope that you like this video. Please like and subscribe. Have yourself a good day. See you in the next video.